ever see you step into the Marvel Universe?
I would love a job. That's all I have to say. I'll take a job, and I've obviously grew up loving Marvel movies and DC movies. If I was contractually allowed to live,
I would just didn't sound very good, does it? It sounds like something a caveman would consume, such as only bones, and would generally approve of you. What is that? Jeremy Renner has been silent for long enough, but it seems that he is prepared to advocate for himself. Trust us, we won't let Snow White trash Hawkeye ever again. Let me investigate this girl, and this is what he discovered. So this is the person Disney chose to play Snow White. With Rachel Zegler igniting controversy everywhere and even turning Disney against her, things are getting hotter quickly. Will this be the end of her fairy tale career? How will Renner handle the storm she started? According to Rachel Z, canceled by labeling him a transphobic racist, Jeremy Renner denigrates J.K. Rowling and incites violence against her for abusing Gina Carano over pronouns. Claims that all conservatives are white nationalists and racist. Have we ever seen you in the Marvel Universe? I would love a job. I've clearly grown up with Marvel and DC films. If I had a contract that enabled me to live the best of both worlds, I would make Rachel Zegler, absolutely obnoxious whenever she appeared in front of a camera. It's been a while since we've seen someone that unlikable, yet she's also been making remarks like this for a long time. It wasn't just at D23 last year that she was ranting about Snow White. In 2019, she really assaulted the Hawkeye actor in a terrible and nasty way. Jeremy Renner, I feel terrible for Jeremy Renner because he stated unequivocally that my ex-wife said all of this in an attempt to harm my career. It's heartbreaking to witness him being charged with such horrible things. In June 2021, Rachel Zegler shocked everyone by attacking Jeremy Renner without warning. She called the racist and sexist actor. The timing of this now famous tirade by a transphobic trash monster couldn't have been worse. Fans and insiders alike were shocked by Renner, who had gained respect for his professionalism and performances while he was embroiled in a contentious custody dispute with his ex-wife, Sony Pacho. This was especially true when Marvel's Hawkeye was being publicly dragged by someone unrelated to the matter, and many people questioned what Snow White had to do with Hawkeye. We've not heard his side, so let's assume that Jeremy has always prioritized his daughter Ava's welfare. This is a case for the court to decide, but it's crucial to understand whether the dramatizations in his declaration are a one-sided account with a specific objective in mind, or whether it's a troubling situation regardless of what's true, and why do marriages and relationships become toxic. How far does it go from being all romantic? Oh my goodness, it was also claimed that as their daughter was sleeping in her bedroom, Jeremy placed a pistol in his mouth, threatened to kill himself, and fired the weapon into the ceiling. Additionally, Sun said that Jeremy had a history of emotional and drug misuse and that he was often intoxicated during his time in physical care of AA, which led him to engage in unsafe behavior. In addition to being severe, Rachel's assault was startling. Sony Pacho, Renner's ex-wife, had accused him of a variety of offenses, including drug and alcohol misuse, even threatening her life. She said that Renner shot their home ceiling while their young daughter was sleeping in a different room. The accusations were so serious that they could destroy anyone's reputation, but the truth is that none of them were ever validated in court. Instead, Renner fiercely defended herself and pointed out multiple flaws in Pooh's account. At one point, Pacho demanded that Renner undergo a drug test, but the judge flatly rejected the request, stating that there were not enough facts to support it. Meanwhile, Rachel was tweeting about how awful Renner was and the legal system was working in his favor. As a result, the situation began to. Some even thought Rachel's tirade was about self-promotion rather than righteous action. It's not a favorable look to campaign to seize someone's job when they're involved in a custody dispute. Not so long ago, Sony Pacho came out and began claiming that Jeremy Renner is a quote-unquote homicidal lunatic who had repeatedly threatened her and the nanny with a pistol, including putting one in his mouth and threatening to shoot himself. Appear less like a legitimate issue and more like a bitter custody dispute wrapped in sensational claims, but Rachel Zegler dove headfirst into the mess and made things worse for herself. Rachel didn't just criticize Renner, she seemed determined to ruin his, as if this legal battle were her audition. She asked in a tweet if I could be the next Hawkeye. Then, she went on to say that the new Hawkeye should be a trans woman of color, to stick it to that racist, sexist, transphobic garbage monster. Let's face it, this wasn't about justice, rather it felt like a clear attempt to kick Renner while he was down and take his place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Her remarks didn't sit well with fans, and many were perplexed as to why she became involved in such a delicate and personal matter. Additionally, according to Sony Pacho, Jeremy Renner is a beautiful when someone is going through a custody battle and a public divorce and one of those parties decides to go public. I don't care what it is, I'm not reading it. While Rachel was out there stirring up drama on Twitter, Renner refused to engage, which ended up being the best thing he could do. His severe drug addiction and alcoholism lead him to leave drugs around the house for the child. Possibly say in an interview when questioned about his approach to public disputes. Renner calmly responded, "I don't respond publicly or privately to nonsense, it only empowers it. I don't fuel fires, I just don't do it. I refuse to." Although he didn't specifically mention Rachel, it was clear who he was referring to, and his elegant and subdued response struck a deeper chord than any tweet could, earning him even more admiration from his fans for remaining above the fray. Instead of adding to the drama, Renner's choice to concentrate on his job and personal life demonstrated the sort of Zegler's outburst was obviously lacking in self-control. In addition to miscalculating, Rachel misfired spectacularly. The backlash against her was swift and harsh, with fans quickly pointing out that she had no business getting involved in a custody dispute. "Who asked you" became a common reply to her tweets, and many began to wonder why she was doing this, accusing her of using a delicate situation to further her own career. Not to mention that Renner's legal issues likely didn't ruin his career the way Rachel's had hoped, but instead, Renner recovered stronger than ever, and Rachel's remarks made her seem petty and ignorant. In the end, this whole situation was a perfect illustration of what occurs when you enter someone else's affairs without fully understanding it. While Rachel's effort to remove him failed spectacularly, making her seem more like a social media opportunist than a champion for justice, Renner maintained his composure, remained focused on his daughter and job, and allowed the facts to speak for themselves. If Rachel believed she could replace him, Hawkeye learned the hard way that it would take much more than a few angry tweets to defeat Jeremy Renner. I didn't know what I was auditioning for, so it's kind of a funny question to ask what drew you to the material. It said something like, Jeff and Amy were reading lines, and then our director Mark Webb on Zoom was like, and then Dopey's going to look at you and whistle, and I took after thinking about what I was auditioning for. I felt like I would push everyone aside to play the part. I have a close relationship with Disney, so could we ever see you enter the Marvel Universe? I would love a job, and I've obviously grown up loving Marvel and DC films. Rachel Zegler is out of control once again. Let's see if I can handle it. If I had a contract that permitted me to live the best of both worlds, I would. She portrays herself as someone who fights for what's right, yet her actions reveal a completely different picture. The problem is mainly her own fault. If one word best describes Rachel's public persona, it's hypocrisy. Imagine claiming to love Marvel and Disney while still disparaging people and the movie. There are 18 hours in the attire of a Disney princess, and I should be compensated for each hour that is streamed online. She is a well-known millionaire in her early 20s, but she is completely out of control and disconnected from reality. I can't be the only one who finds it strange that she will receive hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dollars to play pretend and then demand payment from people years after Rachel Zegler's public image has become. This is the same person who attacked Jeremy Renner for being a garbage monster. Well, she attempted to cancel Renner over unfounded accusations while professing to support justice, but in her own career, she made matters worse for everyone, including Disney. It's difficult to believe she is a champion for justice when she seems more interested in igniting controversy than accepting responsibility for her own actions. When Disney announced Rachel as the lead in the live-action Snow White, her remarks about the film offended fans, disrespected the original film, and created a PR nightmare from which Disney is still struggling to recover. The studio most likely believed they were investing in a new talent who might revive one of their most recognizable characters, but instead they received negative publicity and a mounting reaction, mostly as a result of Rachel's condescending and haughty remarks in interviews. While Disney was attempting to repackage a cherished classic, Rachel publicly criticized the original 1937 Snow White, calling it weird and out of date. She also quipped that Snow White wouldn't be dreaming of a man, but would instead be a leader who doesn't need rescue. With a contemporary spin instead of inspiring enthusiasm, Rachel's words came across as arrogant and disrespectful to the beloved original narrative. Many fans were incensed, seeing them as an insult to the original authors and the millions of people who grew up adoring Snow White. Online users were incensed by Rachel's remarks and criticized both her demeanor and Disney's choices, wondering why someone who was so contemptuous of the original film was chosen in the first place. Not only were Rachel's PR gaffes annoying, fans are also putting Disney in a difficult financial situation. Snow White is currently facing a steep uphill battle at the box office. The studio was already dealing with recent financial setbacks, and Rachel's thoughtless remarks only made matters worse. Rather than enthusiastically promoting the film, she alienated the very audience that Disney was depending on to make it a success. According to some reports, Disney has had to change its marketing tactics and postpone the release date in order to deal with the backlash. Fans are calling for boycotts, and the negative buzz surrounding the film has made it difficult for Disney to create excitement or make money from the project. It's evident that the studio is in damage control mode, but it might be too late. Additionally, it's not just about Rachel's remarks, it's about how her words reflect a larger trend of entitlement and disregard for the projects she's involved in. Fans expect actors to respect the legacy of the characters they play, and Rachel's dismissive. Her effort to cancel Renner failed, and now her participation with Snow White is making matters worse rather than better. It's almost ironic. While Renner earned a standing ovation at the People's Choice Awards, Rachel intentionally ruined a major Disney project with her own actions. Despite this, Rachel attempted to destroy Renner's career over unsubstantiated charges, and now Disney is left to clean up the wreckage. Rachel departed. It's easy to see why Rachel's public image is collapsing due to her careless tweets, tone-deaf comments about Snow White, and needless assault on Jeremy Renner. Managed to enrage industry professionals and alienate fans rather than projecting an image of someone who fights for justice. Instead, she seems to be an opportunist who incites controversy to raise her own fame, while Rachel's remarks continue to backfire and Disney is paying the price for placing her in the limelight. Renner remained silent, remained focused, and prevailed. It's a difficult lesson, but one that she will have to learn the hard way. It's pretty much a given that Disney Snow White will fail and lose money if you base your career on discrediting others. Don't be shocked if people begin to see through the charade at this point. Behavior towards Snow White has only made things more frustrating. How can someone who presents herself as a voice of justice act so recklessly with both her words and her actions? Rachel's behavior with Snow White only serves to highlight the hypocrisy of her attack on Jeremy Renner. She attacked him for alleged personal flaws and attempted to overthrow him, all the while destroying a beloved franchise, because the facts didn't support her assertions. The Daily Mail is reporting that Disney has invested $330 million in the film. After marketing and theater profits, the film needs to earn around $800 million to break even, which is actually being conservative and won't happen. I can't wait for Snow White to be released because I'm sure there will be plenty of reasons to make more videos about the movie's quality or something similar. The trailer for the Snow White movie has been making the rounds online for the past few days, and it doesn't look promising right now. In case you weren't aware, the trailer for this movie came out just a couple of days ago. This will be just another failure in a long line of box office bombs that Disney has released. With the exception of Gua, there's something called cause and effect. We don't just sit around and say, yeah, we grew up watching this movie called Snow White in all these other countries. And all of a sudden you show up and we have to eliminate all the memories of these things. If you thought fans hated the idea of a live-action remake of Snow White, they sure do now, as it's already one of the most hated movie trailers in history, with over 1 million dislikes in less than 2 weeks. Their effort to discredit Renner, a seasoned actor with a loyal following, seems even less logical now that he has managed the situation around him effectively. Professionalism and respectability, the contrast between the two is stark, and public opinion shows that Zegler did the exact opposite by adding petrol to a PR disaster. While Renner received a standing ovation at the People's Choice Awards, Zegler is left to deal with the fallout from her own words in the interview clip from which you read the quote, but she has since talked about this movie on multiple occasions, stating that she once found Snow White to be creepy and that she doesn't like the prince. She believes she should receive more money because she must wear that dress and should be compensated for streaming for each hour she must wear it. Talk about biting the hand that feeds you. Not only are you being cast in a classic movie to remake it, but you also don't seem to like your own character, so she comes off as a whiny brat who is always. Although they haven't formally addressed Rachel Zegler's public errors, it seems that Disney is becoming more and more irritated with her behavior. According to several insiders, Disney reportedly spent an astounding $330 million on the movie and is now worried that it might fail at the box office. As one insider put it, they also need to distance themselves from the negative opinions of online critics. Rumor has it that the studio has been covertly reevaluating its approach for Snow White. Instead, they want to make a fantastic movie. When they finally got it perfect, they realized they were overanalyzing it, so they're throwing everything in a little bit more, which makes the mess worse. Peter Dinklage, who has been outspoken about his disapproval of the movie, questioned the choice to choose a Latina actress as Snow White while keeping the classic plot of the Seven Dwarfs. He also criticized the adaptation for its King backwards representation of dwarfs. The remarks made by Dinklage have examined the movie more closely, demonstrating that Disney is dealing with a lot of criticism on many fronts. Disney is reportedly attempting to disassociate itself from the controversy in order to prevent further alienating fans, which speaks volumes. Additionally, she was prominently featured in early posters, but following the backlash, many noticed that her visibility in marketing campaigns decreased. There has been a harsh public response to the whole affair, with numerous fans believe that Zegler's contemptuous behavior towards Snow White and Disney's omission to mention her on social media is a betrayal. Not to mention Zegler's unprovoked attacks on Jeremy Renner, the beloved Hawkeye, and her remarks. Some fans have even declared they will not watch the film because of the negative comments. You're the mighty, and this guy who founded a business many years before you did and has provided you a career wants to destroy that legacy because young females grew up wanting to have an experience like that? Disney has spent the last 5 years attempting to appease a tiny minority of Americans who constantly complain and bitch while the majority quietly go about their lives and raise their families. We have to live with those men crying all the time, and we're tired of it. Boycotts and memes mocking it. They blame Zegler for ruining a childhood classic and call out Disney for casting someone who obviously disrespects the original work. About Gal Gadot and Gina Carano. Ironically, Zegler, who sought to advance in the industry, is now on the cutting room floor. What makes this backlash even worse for Disney is that it couldn't have come at a worse time. The company has already been dealing with multiple box office failures and the poor performance of its films, so rather than advancing her career, these attacks have done the exact opposite. Disney is reportedly insisting on not hiring her again and has even removed her from promotional materials for Snow White. Even if Disney is working to save the film, Rachel's public failures in previous live-action remakes are not only humiliating but also expensive. Fans don't forget quickly, and many people think that Zegler has tainted the project. Snow White's popular opinion has deteriorated to the point that not even Disney's magic can restore it. Analysts are saying that the movie may not even be able to recover its budget, therefore, its future is now in doubt. Beyond just introducing feminism, but why should you tamper with a classic, particularly when you deserve more and more money for your difficult job of standing in a Snow White dress for several hours a day? Who am I? Why am I here? Who made me? And what am I supposed to do with my life? Oh my God, Rachel Zegler, please stop talking. You are totally ruining this movie by yourself. If I'm going to stand there for 18 hours wearing a Disney princess dress, I should be paid for every hour that it is streamed online. This is already deceased, not to add to the Rachel Zegler Oscar fiasco, but why did they have all of these women who are Disney princesses appear as presenters but not Rachel Zegler, who will play Snow White? They are obviously recognizing Disney princesses from films that haven't been released yet. Someone must have had this discussion and then purposely left her out, despite the fact that she was the only one of the four with a successful film this year. Did anyone else notice this, or am I the only one? Being a homemaker or mom while maintaining leadership. The second issue is that Rachel is incredibly entitled. Sweetie, if you didn't enjoy the film, why did you sign up to be a Disney princess? You will earn millions of dollars playing a character that you obviously don't like, just as we weren't made to watch the film or play the part. Instead, they chose to cast Rachel Zegler, who is Hispanic, as Snow White. Once more, you can cast anyone you want to cast, and I don't really care. But in Snow White, the character is described as having skin as white as snow and lips as red as roses, right? I mean, there is a physical description of the part, and it's not my fault it's written that way. It's not racist to do so. What Rachel Zegler is doing is destroying one of Disney's most cherished properties. Rachel Zegler is formally fired by Disney, and a new actress has been hired to take her place. At the end of the day, Rachel Zegler's actions have caused more harm than good for both herself and the projects she has worked on. Her unprovoked attack on Jeremy Renner backfired spectacularly, demonstrating her willingness to get involved. Make money. In the meanwhile, Zegler's reputation is in ruins. She entered the business as a rising star after her breakthrough performance in West Side Story. She is currently more well known for her reckless behavior and divisive comments than for her acting abilities. Since the criticism has been so severe, some people question if her career can ever entirely recover. This takes us full circle to her assault on Jeremy Renner. When you consider it, by staying away from social media conflicts and refusing to retaliate, Renner demonstrated a maturity that stood in stark contrast to Rachel's very public outburst. Instead of seeking validation online, Renner remained focused on his career and his daughter. This composure, while under intense public pressure, spoke volumes. The restraint he displayed drew admiration from fans and industry peers alike, who saw in him a person committed to rising above personal attacks. Rachel, on the other hand, faced criticism for her decision to involve herself so heavily on social media, with many fans questioning her motives and intentions. Comments like "Who asked you?" populated her posts as onlookers accused her of using a sensitive family matter to gain attention, perhaps even to advance her career. Her approach appeared not only opportunistic but also somewhat out of touch, as many people felt she was capitalizing on a private struggle to score points. The backlash was swift. Rachel's attempts to sway public opinion turned against her, making her appear petty and self-centered, whereas Renner's dignified silence found himself in the spotlight for reasons beyond his Hollywood career. Amidst a custody battle and a very public divorce, Renner's name was frequently in the media as accusations and counter-accusations flew. At the center of this storm was Rachel, his ex-partner, who took to social media, particularly Twitter, to make inflammatory statements. However, Renner took a different approach to these public disputes, embodying a level of restraint that won him admiration for his handling of the situation. According to close friend Sonny Pacaro, Renner's approach was simple and steadfast. When asked about his thoughts on the ongoing accusations and social media chatter, Renner responded calmly, "I don't respond publicly or privately to nonsense, it only empowers it. I don't fuel fires, I just don't do it. I refuse to." This quiet yet firm stance became a powerful statement in itself. Renner made it clear that he had no intention of engaging in a back and forth, particularly when in private matters without all the facts. Rather than being hailed as a voice for justice, she has been criticized for her opportunism and hypocrisy. Zegler will not be able to work for Disney again after that. However, Renner calmly and confidently withstood the storm by refusing to participate. He was respected for his petty drama, and his career is still going strong. It says much about him that he was given a standing ovation at the People's Choice Awards. Renner came out stronger in spite of the unfounded charges and negative publicity. While Zegler's image is rapidly declining, she alienated the public and drove Disney into a PR disaster with her actions involving Disney Snow White, which has only made matters worse. The company is now frantically trying to rescue what's left, but it could be too late to reverse the harm. Authenticity and professionalism will always outshine empty outrage when it comes to earning respect in the entertainment industry. What do you think about Rachel Zegler's actions? Did she go too far, or was she just misunderstood? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time for more insights and hot takes. This is something that Disney, Zegler, and the fans can all learn from.